Welcome to True Crime, where we explore some of the most shocking cases that have shaken communities. Today, we're taking you to Sedona, Arizona, a town usually known for its peace and spiritual retreats. But that peace was shattered when the body of a 19-year-old was discovered under shocking and unusual circumstances. This is the story of a young man, his 65-year-old bride with a controlling personality, and a marriage that ended in tragedy. Noah Beasley was a quiet 19-year-old who grew up in Cottonwood, Arizona. He had just finished high school in May 2021 and was known in town as the shy kid who always carried a guitar. Noah had recently graduated from high school in Cottonwood, Arizona, and was a reserved, introverted 19-year-old. Unlike many of his friends who were moving on to college or starting jobs, Noah was still trying to figure out his next steps in life. He loved music and dreamed of becoming a musician, but he hadn't yet figured out how to make that dream a reality. Noah lived with his mother, Jenna Beasley, in a small trailer on the edge of town. They didn't have much money. Jenna, a single mother, struggled to provide for Noah, especially after losing her job during the pandemic. This financial stress weighed heavily on Noah. Noah often felt the pressure to help his mother, who was deep in debt. Even though he was naturally shy, he had a kind heart. He was the type of person who would help others, even when he was facing his own problem. In the days leading up to his death, Noah found himself in a strange situation. Just a week before, he had married Gertrude "Gertie" Hartford, a 65-year-old retired heiress. Gertie was known for her lavish lifestyle and had been married several times before. She insisted on having an extravagant wedding, so they got married at a luxury resort in Sedona. The ceremony was over the top, with expensive decorations, a gourmet meal, and a custom-made wedding dress for Gertie. However, Noah looked uncomfortable and out of place throughout the entire event. He seemed uneasy and unsure about everything. The sudden news of his marriage to 65-year-old Gertrude Hartford shocked everyone who knew him. Many wondered what could have led the quiet, reserved Noah to make such a drastic decision. Some thought it might be tied to his mother's financial troubles, while others feared he might be under Gertrude's influence. Their relationship was already unusual because of the big age gap, but it was made worse by Gertrude's demanding and controlling nature. She often had angry outbursts when things didn't go her way, and Noah felt increasingly weighed down by her behavior. He confided in his mother, Jenna, about his worries, but she encouraged him to stay in the marriage. This left Noah feeling trapped, torn between his mother's wishes and his growing discomfort with his new life. At the time of his death, Noah was still struggling to adjust. He had withdrawn from his friends and spent most of his time at home with Gertrude. His dream of becoming a musician seemed farther away than ever. He was a young man who had lost his way and couldn't see a future that made sense to him. On the morning of October 8th, 2021, the usually peaceful town of Sedona was shaken by a grim discovery. At 8 a.m., Marjorie Lane, an 82-year-old neighbor, was on her usual walk when she noticed something strange at Gertrude Hartford Beasley's luxurious home. The curtains were closed and the front door was slightly open. Marjorie, who had lived in the neighborhood for years, thought this was odd because Gertrude was known for her strict routines and perfect organization. Worried and curious, Marjorie decided to check it out. As she got closer, she called out but got no response. Hesitant but concerned, she stepped inside and was immediately met with a strong, unpleasant smell. That's when she saw Noah Beasley lying still on the living room floor. His body was slumped against the couch, with several empty prescription pill bottles scattered around. A half-empty glass of water sat on the coffee table next to him. Marjorie stood frozen in shock, her heart racing. She knew Noah well and couldn't believe what she was seeing. Fighting back tears, she pulled out her phone and called 911, her hand trembling as she gave the address and explained what had happened. When the operator asked her to check for signs of life, Marjorie hesitated but did as she was told. She knelt beside Noah and gently shook his shoulder, calling his name. There was no response. His face was pale, his lips had a hint of blue, and he wasn't breathing. Marjorie's mind raced as she remembered the wedding from just a week earlier. Noah had seemed so out of place next to the much older Gertrude in her elaborate gown. Marjorie struggled to understand how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. Tears streamed down her face as she stayed on the phone with the 911 operator until the police and paramedics arrived. The authorities quickly confirmed Noah's death at the scene. Shaken and heartbroken, Marjorie was led outside and sat on the curb, staring blankly at the house where Noah's young life had ended so tragically. The police arrived at the Hartford Beasley home shortly before 9 a.m. on October 8, 2021. Detective Marla Grunbold, a seasoned investigator with the Sedona Police Department, took charge of the case. With her sharp instincts and direct approach, Detective Grunbold began to assess the scene. Accompanied by Officer Tom Jenkins, a young and eager recruit, Detective Grunbold entered the house now at the center of this tragic mystery. The living room where Noah's body lay was eerily quiet. The luxurious furniture and elegant decorations stood in stark contrast to the lifeless figure on the floor. Detective Grunbold immediately noticed the empty pill bottles scattered around Noah and the glass of water on the coffee table. She saw the labels for Xanax and OxyContin, drugs often linked to overdoses. The scene was surprisingly tidy otherwise. There were no signs of struggle, no overturned furniture, and no blood. The cleanliness of the scene raised concerns for Detective Grunbold. It suggested that the event might not have been a chaotic incident, but something more planned and deliberate. She instructed Officer Jenkins to start photographing the scene while she called forensics to dust for fingerprints and collect evidence. Dr. Evelyn Ong, the coroner, arrived soon after to examine the body. She confirmed that Noah had likely died from an overdose, noting that the amount of drugs found was far above the safe limit, indicating this was no accident. As they continued their investigation, Detective Grunbold noticed a small detail: a wedding photo of Noah and Gertrude on the mantel. Noah's expression in the photo was distant, his eyes downcast, sharply contrasting with Gertrude's bright, smiling face. This subtle detail suggested that things in the newlywed household might not have been as perfect as they seemed. The forensics team carefully collected the pill bottles, the glass of water, and other potential evidence. They also noticed a faint perfume in the air, which Detective Grunbold recognized as Gertrude's signature fragrance, Chanel No. 5. By the time they finished their initial investigation, Detective Grunbold increasingly suspected that this might not be a simple overdose. The evidence pointed to possible foul play, marking the beginning of a more in-depth investigation. As they dug into Noah Beasley's death, the police turned their attention to the most obvious suspect. Gertrude Jurdy Hartford Beasley, Noah's 65-year-old wife. Known for her extravagant lifestyle and commanding presence, Gertrude was a well-known figure in Sedona. Born into wealth, she had been married several times, with each marriage ending badly. Gertrude was obsessed with staying youthful and was famous for her tantrums when things didn't go her way. Her reputation as a bridezilla was well-earned, as she demanded perfection from everyone around her. When Detective Marla Grunbold and Officer Tom Jenkins visited Gertrude's home later that afternoon, they found her relaxing by the pool, just a few feet from where her husband had died. He was sipping a mimosa and flipping through the latest issue of Vogue. Despite the tragedy, Gertrude seemed unnervingly calm. Dressed in a designer caftan and oversized sunglasses, she gave off an air of indifference that immediately caught Detective Grunbold's attention. Gertrude greeted the officers with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. When asked about the events leading up to Noah's death, she said she had gone to bed early the night before, leaving Noah in the living room to play his computer games. She claimed that when she woke up and didn't find him in bed, she thought he had just fallen asleep on the couch. She seemed surprised and somewhat sad about his death, but didn't appear particularly distressed, as if reacting to the news of a friend's pet passing away. During the questioning, Gertrude's account stayed the same, but her lack of genuine emotion raised doubts. She was cooperative but distant, answering questions with a rehearsed precision. When asked about the pill bottles found at the scene, Gertrude explained that Noah had been struggling lately and had been prescribed medication to help him cope. She said she didn't know he might overdose and suggested that Noah might have taken more pills than he should have in a moment of despair. Despite her calm demeanor, Detective Grunbold noticed a few inconsistencies in Gertrude's story. For instance, Gertrude mentioned that Noah was playing video games, but the TV was off when Marjorie Lane discovered the body. Additionally, the master bedroom's bed was untouched, suggesting that Gertrude might not have gone to bed at all. The more Detective Grunbold questioned her, the more it seemed that Gertrude was hiding something. Without solid evidence, the police couldn't detain her. Although Gertrude's alibi seemed solid, her behavior left a lingering sense of doubt. As the interrogation wrapped up, Detective Grunbold couldn't shake the feeling that this polished, calm woman might be more involved in Noah's death than she was admitting. With Gertrude Hartford Beasley still a key suspect, the police turned their attention to the second suspect. Jenna Beasley, Noah's mother. At 49, Jenna had faced a series of difficulties, with her life marked by a string of poor choices that seemed to worsen over time. Struggling with massive debt, Jenna had started selling prescription drugs on the side, a secret she had mostly kept hidden. However, her repeated arrests meant that not everyone was unaware of her troubles. Detective Marla Grunbold suspected that Jenna's desperation might have led her to influence Noah's ill-fated marriage to Gertrude. The chance of her son's marriage providing a financial lifeline was too tempting for Jenna to ignore, despite the risks involved. When the police brought Jenna in for questioning, she appeared anxious and nervous, dressed in faded jeans and a worn t-shirt. Jenna was a stark contrast to the polished Gertrude. Her hands shook as she lit a cigarette, a habit she had recently picked up again, and her voice quivered as she answered the detective's questions. Jenna admitted that she had encouraged Noah to marry Gertrude, framing it as an opportunity he couldn't afford to pass up. She talked about the wedding at the luxurious Sedona resort, noting how Noah had seemed out of place among the opulence. Jenna claimed she wanted the best for her son and believed Gertrude could offer them financial security, something Jenna had never been able to provide. When the discussion shifted to the drugs found at the scene, Jenna became defensive. She denied knowing anything about the large amount of pills, insisting that Noah must have gotten them elsewhere and taken them on his own. Detective Grunbold remained unconvinced. Jenna's financial problems, her involvement in illegal drug sales, and her desperation to make Noah's marriage work all pointed to her potential involvement. Under pressure, Jenna's responses became more erratic. She contradicted herself, first claiming she hadn't seen Noah in days, then saying she had visited him the night before his death. Her nervousness and inconsistent statements only increased the suspicion. Despite her denials, Jenna's connection to the drugs and her clear motive to ensure Noah's marriage made her a prime suspect. Detective Grunbold knew Jenna was clever and ruthless, willing to go to great lengths to protect herself, even if it meant harming her own son. As the interrogation wrapped up, they were getting closer to finding out the truth, but many pieces of the puzzle were still missing. With both Gertrude Hartford Beasley and Jenna Beasley under suspicion, the police turned their attention to a third suspect, Harry Hartford, Gertrude's ex-husband. At 70, Harry was a wealthy real estate mogul known for his harshness in both business and personal matters. His latest project involved developing retirement communities across Arizona, a lucrative business that had expanded his wealth even further. Harry's marriage to Gertrude had ended in a bitter divorce just months before she married Noah. The divorce had been highly publicized and talked about in Arizona's elite social circles. Gertrude had secured a large portion of Harry's fortune, leaving him both angry and humiliated. The timing of Noah's marriage to Gertrude, who was much younger, only added to Harry's feelings of insult and resentment. Harry's jealousy and lingering anger made him a prime suspect in the investigation. Detective Marla Grunbold and Officer Tom Jenkins decided to question him. When they arrived at his large estate, they found him in his home office, surrounded by legal documents and architectural plans. Harry greeted them with a firm handshake, his demeanor confident and controlled. Unlike Jenna, who had been nervous and agitated, Harry appeared calm and collected, as if he had been expecting their visit. During the interrogation, Harry was cooperative, but his responses were carefully measured. He admitted to being angered by Gertrude's new marriage. He called it a slap in the face, but denied any involvement in Noah's death. Harry said he had been focused on his business and had little contact with either Gertrude or Noah since the divorce. When asked about his whereabouts on the night of Noah's death, Harry provided a strong alibi. He claimed to have been at a business dinner in Phoenix with potential investors. Several prominent attendees could vouch for his presence, making it difficult for the police to dispute his alibi. Despite his cooperation, Detective Grunbold couldn't shake the feeling that Harry was hiding something. His calm demeanor seemed overly controlled, as if he had rehearsed his answers. Additionally, Harry had been seen arguing with Gertrude just days before Noah's death, which added to the suspicion. That morning, an anonymous envelope had been delivered to the station, sparking immediate curiosity. Inside was a USB drive, and its contents were shocking. The drive contained a series of text messages between Gertrude Hartford Beasley and an unknown contact, dated just days before Noah's death. The messages outlined Gertrude's plan to divorce Noah and remove him from her will. They revealed that Gertrude was using her knowledge of Jenna Beasley's illegal drug dealings as leverage. The text also showed Gertrude's frustration with Noah's sullen demeanor and poor performance as her husband, along with her growing impatience to be rid of him. One message read, "Sex with him is so bland. His thing is smaller than my ring finger." Another chilling text said, "If that expletive Jenna thinks she's getting away with this, she's got another thing coming. I'll make sure she and that small expletive pay." The messages gave crucial insight into Gertrude's mindset and intentions. They revealed that she had been plotting to remove both Noah and Jenna from her life. The text also hinted at the involvement of a third party, someone helping Gertrude gather information on Jenna's drug dealing. Detective Grunwald and her team quickly traced the message's origins. They found that the anonymous contact was actually one of Gertrude's private investigators. This investigator had been hired to gather information on Jenna before Gertrude married Noah. The investigator had uncovered Jenna's drug dealing and was supplying Gertrude with the information she needed to execute her plan. The new evidence painted a damning picture of Gertrude as a manipulative and vengeful person, willing to go to great lengths to get what she wanted. It also raised serious questions about Jenna's role in Noah's death. Did Jenna discover Gertrude's plan and act out of desperation, or was she merely a pawn in Gertrude's scheme? With this new information, the police intensified their scrutiny of both Gertrude and Jenna. The investigation took on new urgency as it became clear that the truth was more complex than originally thought. While some pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together, the full story was still elusive. On October 20th, 2021, as the investigation reached a critical point, Detective Marla Grunwald received a major breakthrough. After analyzing the text messages from the USB drive and cross-referencing them with phone records, it became clear that Jenna Beasley, Noah's mother, was behind the deadly plot. Driven by desperation and greed, Jenna had manipulated her son for her own gain. Overwhelmed by debt and a series of poor decisions, she saw Noah's marriage to Gertrude as her way out of financial trouble. Jenna feared that if Noah, who had shown little interest in women, left Gertrude, it would ruin her chances of a steady financial lifeline. To prevent Noah from leaving Gertrude and endangering her financial security, Jenna had been secretly giving him prescription drugs and sexual enhancers to keep him compliant and active. However, her plan went horribly wrong when Noah accidentally overdosed on a much larger quantity than she had intended. The situation became even more complicated when it was revealed that Gertrude, unhappy with Noah's lack of sexual enthusiasm, had been planning to divorce him and cut both him and Jenna out of her life. Gertrude had found out about Jenna's involvement in drug dealing and intended to use that information to manipulate them both. Desperate to keep the marriage intact and maintain her financial stability, Jenna took drastic measures. On the night of Noah's death, she gave him a stronger dose of drugs, hoping to calm him. However, Noah, already distressed by his unhappy marriage and fearful of Gertrude's cruelty, took even more pills on his own, leading to a fatal overdose. Jenna had meant to kill her son, but her actions were directly responsible for his death. When confronted with the evidence, Jenna initially denied any wrongdoing. Her panic and frantic behavior sharply contrasted with her earlier calm demeanor. As Detective Grunwald presented the incriminating messages and phone records, Jenna's defenses crumbled. She admitted she never meant to kill Noah, but only wanted to keep him in the marriage to secure their financial future. Jenna's arrest shocked both Sedona and Cottonwood. The revelation that her own mother had caused Noah's death devastated the community, already shaken by the strange circumstances of his marriage. The towns now faced the harsh reality that greed and desperation had led to such a senseless tragedy. As Jenna was led away in handcuffs, she appeared numb, struggling to grasp the full extent of her actions. The Beasley family, deeply affected by the tragedy, found it hard to cope with their grief and disbelief. The arrest marked the end of a dark chapter in Sedona's history, but the emotional scars would linger for a long time. Jenna Beasley's trial began in early December 2022. The courtroom was packed with reporters from outlets like the Arizona Republic and True Crime Weekly, all eager to cover the dramatic details of the case. The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney Mark Christensen, portrayed Jenna as a manipulative woman who put her financial needs above her son's life. Christensen, known for his sharp intellect and relentless pursuit of justice, argued that Jenna's actions were planned and driven by greed. He pointed to the text messages, phone records, and Jenna's own confession as clear evidence of her guilt. In contrast, Carlita Vazquez, the public defender, depicted Jenna as a troubled mother who made a serious mistake. Vazquez, a seasoned attorney known for her compassion, argued that Jenna had never intended to kill Noah. She highlighted Jenna's financial struggles and her desperation to provide a better future for her family. Vazquez claimed that Noah's death was an unfortunate accident and appealed to the jury's sympathy by stressing the immense pressure Jenna was under. Throughout the trial, Noah's family watched in anguish as the case details were revealed. Their grief was evident, their tearful faces showing the deep impact of the case. While the prosecution made a strong case, the defense's plea for leniency resonated with some jurors. On December 15, 2022, the jury reached their verdict. Jenna Beasley was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. The jury decided that while Jenna's actions led to Noah's death, there wasn't enough evidence to prove she meant to kill him. The courtroom fell silent when the verdict was read, with Jenna's face staying pale and emotionless. The judge sentenced Jenna to 10 years in prison with the chance of parole after 5 years. The reactions to the sentence were mixed. Some people felt it was too lenient given the tragedy of Noah's death, while others thought it was fair considering Jenna's desperate situation. For Noah's family, the verdict didn't bring much comfort. They struggled to accept the loss of their loved one, taken by the person who should have cared for him. Sedona also had to come to terms with the unsettling events that had happened, a harsh reminder of how greed and desperation can lead people to commit terrible acts. In the months after Jenna Beasley's sentencing, the case continued to cast a shadow over the Sedona community. The trial had affected everyone involved, from Noah's family to local residents. Jenna Beasley was sent to the Arizona State Prison Complex in Perryville, a high-security facility near Phoenix, where she would serve her sentence. In prison, Jenna faced a tough environment. The media coverage of her case meant she was often the subject of gossip and judgment from other inmates. The prison offered limited opportunities for rehabilitation and support, so Jenna had to confront the harsh reality of her actions and their tragic consequences. In prison, she participated in programs focused on substance abuse and mental health, hoping to find redemption and prepare for her eventual release. Meanwhile, Sedona slowly returned to normal. The town held a memorial for Noah at a local park where friends, family, and residents came together to pay their respects and remember him. The memorial featured live music and heartfelt speeches honoring Noah's life and dreams. It was a poignant reminder of his untimely death and gave the community a chance to unite and support each other. Over time, media coverage of the case faded, making way for new stories and developments. The impact of Noah's death and the trial remained a powerful reminder of how desperation and greed can lead to devastating results. The events of October 2021 left a lasting mark on everyone involved, serving as a cautionary tale for the community and beyond. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more gripping and shocking stories to come.